Back in the dark days of the video nasty witch hunt in the early 1980s, nothing perhaps summed up the stupidity and cultural emptiness of the police, the Director of Public Prosecutions and the tabloid press in the UK, quite as well as the prosecution for obscenity of Andrei Zulawski's Possession, an intensely powerful and creative work of art that was reduced by the courts and the press to the level of being an octopus sex film, on the basis of a single scene in the movie that didn't even feature octopus sex. Thankfully, common sense for once prevailed and the film was acquitted of obscenity charges after a fairly high-profile trial in 1984. But other than a brief VHS re-release in the late 1990s, it remained unseen in the UK until Second Sight's DVD edition several years ago. That version was later overhauled for Blu-ray and now arrives on UHD in a version that must be the definitive edition. It's certainly the definitive package, coming in a box that is bigger than most multi-movie collections. And there's little here that can be described as filler, at least within the bulk of the content. But we'll come back to the new edition shortly. First of all, let's discuss the movie itself.
Oh, Mark. Your wife keeps her own secrets.
Make her talk to me. It'll be the way that she wants. Tell me.
Well, I think what you want to do to Bob is just
Inhuman. So what you're doing must be human. What's gonna happen to us?
after you!
Stop coming!
Why I have to go!
I'll follow you!
You can hate me as much as you like. But it's you who wants to know things for me. So please make it possible.
Look uglier. You've hardened. For the first time, you look vulgar to me.
You are not different from anyone else. We are all the same, but in different words, different bodies, different versions, like insects, meat.
What is it?
Possession is about many things, but at the heart of it is a marital breakdown. Sam Neill plays Mark, a likely government agent, never really explained who or what he is, who arrives home from a mission to try and patch up his failing marriage to Anna, played by Isabella Gianni. Anna has a lover, the slimy Heinrich, played by Heinz Bennett, and it's fair to say that neither of them are handling the situation well. Mark vegetates in a hotel room for 3 weeks, Anna leaves their young son alone in the flat, and they have intense physical confrontations, as Mark flips between pushing her away and begging her to return. It soon turns out that she's moved on from Heinrich, and now has a mysterious new partner, a grotesque, evolving, tentacled creature that she will do anything to protect. Possession is a remarkable film. It's like set in a grey, depressing West Berlin. The wall is literally right outside the couple's window. It would be a deranged, intense film even without the addition of the bizarre creature. You know, if you think you've ever had a bad breakup, this movie might well make you think again. Neil and Ajani are both at full throttle, reaching levels of hysteria so overwhelming that you genuinely worry for their sanity at times. Ajani especially going all out as she not so much descends as plummets into madness. The infamous birth scene is rightly notorious for the level of dementia that the actress shows, and it never loses its power. While not a horror film, not really, Possession certainly ventures into that area, and it does so impressively. Carlo Rambaldi's monster is worryingly authentic, maybe his finest special effects creation, and the violence has a sickly reality to it, possibly because so much of it is quite intimate and small scale. The scene where Ajani takes an electric knife to her neck is still very shocking. The creature could have derailed the film, it certainly pushes it in a different direction, but given the nature of what we've seen so far, its appearance doesn't even feel that odd. And frankly, it's so weird, so grotesque, so understated in many ways that its appearance just adds to the overall insanity of the film. Zulawski's direction is thankfully restrained. He lets the wildness happen within the characters, and the film itself has a rather sedate, cold feel to it. There's certainly a political part to this story. It was his first project after leaving communist Poland, and it's clear that the evil he sees in the story isn't just that involving tentacled creatures and marital breakdown. But it's not laid out in a heavy-handed message, instead making up a part of the general insanity. And frankly, you know, after all, what could be more insane than a city split in two by a giant wall? As powerful now as it was on original release in 1981, Possession is a disturbing, astonishing, sometimes darkly comic and often quite moving tour de force that straddles the art house and the grindhouse, while ultimately transcending both. This is, by any definition, a must-see movie. I've owned a lot of editions of Possession over the years. The original UK VHS that was issued by VTC and resulted in that ludicrous court case that I referenced at the beginning of this video. The film's 1998 reissue by Visual Film, which featured the director's cut, and both of the previous Second Sight editions. So you might say that I'm a fan of this movie. In fact, I'd been fascinated with it long before I actually saw it, when it was the subject of a curiously dismissive piece by Tony Crawley in Starburst magazine. His disdain for this movie couldn't hide the fascinating concept and the visuals that the article teased us with. Of course, at that point in 1981, it seemed unlikely that a film like Possession, a movie that wasn't one thing or the other in terms of genre and was what we call difficult, would ever see any kind of significant UK release. Zulawski's films are generally not made their way to this country, and this seemed too difficult a prospect, frankly. I hadn't reckoned on the home video market, of course. Possession was never actually sold in a sensationalist way on UK video. It just happened to get caught up in the general madness of that time. The court case certainly made a big deal of the fact that this was a respectable film, an art film, a serious film, which probably didn't do much to help all the other films caught up in that hysteria, but nevertheless maybe led to the fact that the film was acquitted by a jury. Also perhaps because they just watched the movie and realised that A, there's no octopus, B, there's nothing remotely obscene in the film. But because of those video nasty connections, the film's always had something of a reputation, at the same time enhancing and degrading its popularity. People tend to see it as a video nasty, albeit an acquitted video nasty, so not actually one. It's a story for another day, which we'll come to. But nevertheless, I think people underestimate the film's qualities because they judge it as a horror movie, both its admirers and its detractors. And as I said, I don't think it is a horror movie. I think it's a movie in which the psychological becomes physical, emotions manifest in the most outrageous way possible. But I'm not sure that horror is at the heart of the film. Nevertheless, if you want to watch it as a horror film, I think it does work in that way as well. But enough about the movie. Let's get on to this extraordinarily hefty set. So as you can see, it comes with, first of all, with the disposable cover piece. I'll just pop that there. So we're taking that off. We have the minimal artwork, the fantastic poster by Basha that had never appeared in the film's promotions, certainly in the UK and the US. At the time, it's a very European bit of artwork, and not the sort of thing you would have seen on a UK video cover by and large. The UK video cover, the VTC video cover, or covers, because there were two of them, are fascinating in themselves, particularly the second one after the film was re-released post-trial to emphasise its more artistic qualities. Let's open this up and see what we get inside in order. So first of all, we have, what do we call them? Postcard, art prints. But let's see what we have here. A collection of stills. So I certainly think that of all films, this one perhaps justifies the inclusion of these art cards, in the sense that every scene in the movie is so visually striking. The actors are giving such fantastic physical performances that every shot looks great. I don't know if anybody ever buys a box set because these things are in there. I'm not sure what they really bring to the table beyond something else to add as an extra, but you know, I'm not complaining at their presence. I just think they're a little pointless. I rarely would even remove these from the seal, let alone ever look at them again if I wasn't doing this here now. So let's see what we have next. Possession, the shooting script, and as you can see, that's a hefty piece. How many pages does this run to? 200 pages. And pretty much all of that is script. So you can see that this is an intense work. No throwaway screenplay on this. Really nice package, nice book. And that's the interesting thing when you get to these with sets like this. You're not just getting a movie. What you get, and we've discussed this before as well, is a genuinely substantial piece of print. You know, this as a standalone would be extraordinary to have. Then we have a hardback book, which is, I suppose, this set's version of the accompanying booklet. So let's have a look what we have content-wise. So there's certainly some interesting archival material here. The press book stuff about the film poster, behind the scenes interviews with Zulawski, piece by my old buddy Dan Bird, who is essentially the go-to expert on Polish cinema in general, I think, and certainly on Zulawski's films. When you think of this, here you have two, not one but two, whoppingly big books about the movie. And then we come on to the discs themselves. So 3 discs, so that's 2 Blu-rays and 1 UHD. So not a great deal to say about that. Obviously that's just nicely packaged, but very much traditional. The contents, of course, listed on the back of this leaflet here. There's an audio commentary from the director. There's more stuff with Dan Bird involved. You know, archive documentaries. So there are archive interviews as well. So by any standards, this is a remarkable, extraordinary collection. The fact that it's for a film like Possession, a film that I love so much, you would never have conceived of something like this existing back in the day. For Possession to have reached the stage where something like this is viable, I'm assuming that it is viable. I mean, Second Sight have already issued this film twice, so they must have an idea of what the market for it is. It's amazing and gratifying for all the naysayers of this film, and I have to say that amongst genre critics back in the day, they were nearly all naysayers of one sort or another. This is vindication. It's vindication for the movie. It's vindication for all those of us who saw it the first time and were blown away by it. Yeah, I'm very, very happy. In case you haven't got the message yet, yes, you should pick this up. Yeah, it's not going to be a cheap set. I don't know what the actual price on this is. This is a review copy, I should point out. Probably should have pointed that out earlier, but you know. So I'm kind of interested to know what you guys think of Possession. I would imagine that most of you out there will like it, unless you're kind of watching this out of some weird pathological hatred for the film. But let me know, when did you first see it? Do you have any memories of the Video Nasty trial? What do you make of Zulawski's films in general? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy these reviews, I was going to say deep dive, semi-deep dive, sort of, you know, wading in waist deep, I suppose, into new releases and classic cult movies, then feel free to hit that like button, subscribe to Desperate Living. Everything helps build the channel up and encourage me to keep going with this sort of thing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you again soon.